morning, everyone. Welcome to Solid Ground on this Tuesday, the 12th of August. I have no idea where the year is going. Look, wonderful to have you along on what is a gorgeous day here. I sound somewhat surprised in my voice, but it feels like the last few weeks it's been bucketing with rain, so it's lovely to look outside at the moment and see clear blue sky, but rather cold for Auckland, I better add. I can see some of you from down south already commenting. So, yes, you'll be going, it's not cold enough in Auckland compared to where you are. Hey, look, Solid Ground's an opportunity to talk the topics and the issues of the day, particularly what's happened in the last few days, because you know we do Solid Ground on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And it's a chance to talk about those topics. It's also a chance for you to share your comments and thoughts. And you can do that on any of the platforms that this is streaming to. But if you're on Family First YouTube channel or Family First Facebook page, you're able to put comments in and they come to me live here in the studio. And so again, all thoughts are welcome. And if you have any questions too, you don't have to comment simply on what I'm discussing. If, like the other week, Harrison, who is a regular, put a question in, I think it was around something to do with education. I think my memory is clearly not sufficient enough. But if you want to put in a question about another topic that's on your mind, I'll do my best to answer that. Before I say the good mornings, I thought I'd share this photo with you. This was me and Rachel over the weekend. We held a bit of a party at our home. We've sold our home. It's time to go smaller and simpler. So we held a bit of a farewell party, not for ourselves, but for the house. And one of the wonderful pizza crews called Calamero Pizza here in St. Heliers. I think they've got other locations too in the likes of Devonport. But anyway, let's just say enough pizzas that I was able to stack them on high. You can see near the bottom one gave out, but there we go. I think you know you've got quite an event on when you've got as many pizzas as your height. But anyway, that was a very fun evening. As I say, whoa, that was a lot of pizza. Guys, as always, it's lovely to have you along here. I can't do a show, of course, without saying good morning to you all. So Harrison, one of our solid regulars, lovely to have you along, and thank you for your comments on last night's show. That was straight talk. Michael, good to have you along. Got Jackie here from Reitihi. She says a little bit later, I see that it's cool but fine there in Reitihi as well, which is pretty much the same here in Auckland. So I can't easily turn the camera around, but it's quite a nice day. Sandra, good morning. Lovely to have you here. We've got Rosie, thank you. Good morning. Dean, lovely to have you back. Catherine, we couldn't do a show without you. Good morning. Nigel's telling me it's rather chilly there in Te Awamutu. Just such a lovely place, I have to say. Chris, good to have you along there in Napier. Sorry, why Pukerau? Why Pukerau? Why did I think Napier all of a sudden? We've got muddy waters here from the deep south. I'd say it'll be very cold down there. Darren, lovely to have you along. Good morning. Yes, it is cool here in Auckland. Edmund, good morning. Oh, we've got an Ian there as well. Good morning, Lynette. Hello. Dee Dee. We're looking forward to those comments. Dee Dee is one of our frequent commenters. Love it. Rabbit Hole, good morning. Lovely to have you along. The next one always knows I have a great giggle at the name Food Dogs Trucking. One of these days I'm going to get that wrong and I'm in trouble. Yeah, Dee Dee's already on fire. Wondering if I was hungry with all these pizzas. Fortunately, there was a goodly number of people around. So, and Rabbit Hole saying congratulations. Yes, we've talked for a long time of selling our home. Big family, and of course the kids are growing older, and it's just time for a change. I said it's a plan that we've been talking about almost as long as I've known Rachel. So we're finally there. So Harrison was, I don't think it's outing him inappropriately, Harrison was taught by my amazing wife. So yes, she is very well, arguably was even more well after all that pizza. And also, of course, well, you know the house, Harrison. So yes. Question coming in, which I'm just going to have to admit from the start, I don't know the answer. I see, it's more of a... I haven't even pressed the right button. Peter's asking a question here, and I'll drop this, so I'm going to press buttons everywhere. Yeah, well, I don't know the exact case, Peter, but I think what Peter's referencing is we have a very strange justice system here where basically what seems like minor infractions are either ignored or disproportionately reacted to. Think about people being dragged before the courts because of what they've supposedly said or thought. And then you have people, is it 8 months home detention for an attempted murder? I mean, I recall when I was in Parliament, I think in the last years, a young guy who raped or assaulted 4 women got a similar sentence. It was pathetic. So we seem to have lost our confidence. Dee Dee's asking mine in different electorate. Not yet. So still in Auckland, still in where I have lived for many, many years. We'll temporarily still stay in Auckland, but after that, well, Rachel and I have just got, options. We're excited. We've got Susan saying to come to South Auckland. Well, it'd be closer to the Family First offices, I'd have to say. That would be good, but there's some talk actually, without divulging too much of my personal life and boring you all, is we are thinking that maybe it's time to move out of Auckland, do something a little bit different. Speaking of a little bit different, I thought I'd just share this. Mark Mitchell and I were in Parliament together. We're in the same year group and I have an enormous amount of time for him. But I thought I'd just share this. It's behind a paywall at the moment on the New Zealand Herald. But I thought just a really amazing story. Those of us who know Mark know a lot of his background as a dog handler, stabbed with a samurai sword. He was in Iraq, survived 4 IED or improvised explosive device explosions. There's a bad, awkward sentence. And a whole lot of other things that he was sharing with Audrey Young. And I actually found it quite moving. As I say, I know Mark well. And look, many politicians have incredible stories, but I think Mark's would have to be right up there. So hopefully it comes out of the paywall soon. I just think it's a humanising read around an MP who's served the country and the realm, I think with great distinction in many roles. But I just found it, as I say, quite moving. So check that out. Mark's a good guy. Hey, I'm not going to spend too much time on these because, of course, we've got political playback on Thursday. So really, this is just a short advertisement in some ways. The polls are showing National Labour either neck and neck, or in the taxpayer union poll, Labour's actually taken up, has gone ahead of National. So, as I say, quite a lot of politics happening at the moment, quite a lot of flux. And so come and join Bob and I on Thursday evening. It'll be at 5 o'clock. We'll be talking around those polls a lot more. I am getting... I'm getting lots of comments from people about moving. Harrison wants me to move to an electorate to get back to Parliament. I hate to break it to you, Harrison. I'm enjoying life out of Parliament. Peter's saying move out of the North Island. Actually, we flirted with heading down, not to Queenstown, but into that area. Again, we've got options now, which is quite exciting. Nigel saying coming to Te Awamutu. I might have shared before that Rachel almost did live there at one point. Gillian is saying Kerikeri is a great... It is. I used to live in Whangarei. That was my home until I was 17 and know Kerikeri well, which is great. Oh, Catherine saying the South Island as well. We're getting lots of votes. Well, it's good that no one's trying to exile me out of the country. That's a positive. Hey, look, so a few, little quickie stories. I found this one, quite funny. It's probably more Auckland-centric, but there's been quite a famous bookstore called the Hard to Find Bookstore, which, twofold. One, it's often physically hard to find, and B, it's a collection of books. But what made me laugh is it used to be on Ponsonby Road, I think, but has eventually ended up inside an old Catholic building at the top of Simon Street. And if you're not from Auckland, don't worry about the specifics too much. But it's in Auckland Central, or just outside of the central city. But what caught my eye was, in a sense, the reporter and everyone complaining that in this case the church was moving them on. Not out of any aggravation, it was just the church either wants the building or needs to sell the building. I don't know the exact motivations, but it's clear it's not personal. But I've just been struck how the reporting expects that somehow because it's a church, or owned by the church, they have some sort of obligation to this guy and his bookstore. And again, no offence to him personally, but I find that bordering on ridiculous. The churches get beaten up all the time in the media for what they are and are not doing, and yet on the same time there's this expectation that they're just meant to be I don't know, kind and generous at every moment and not think of what is actually good for their parish or parishioners or the wider service of the church. So I just thought it was, I don't know what the exact observation is. It just caught my eye of like, oh, the church is getting beaten up because it's decided a commercial business has to move on. And there's just a hint within the reporting of just how nasty and terrible this is. And you have to ask yourself, if this was not, in this case, the Catholic Church or a church in general, would there even be a headline of this nature? Anyway, I just thought it was a small thing, more locally, but sort of keeping with books. There's a bit of a brouhaha, or I don't know, a whole lot of noise being made around one of the books being pulled from the English curriculum. And so some people, as you could imagine, are screaming and yelling that it's racism, because anytime you do something that the progressive left or the woke don't like, it's racist or some other sort of ism. So as I understand it, part of the English curriculum, they're now heading back towards what they call structured literacy. In other words, you build a child's knowledge into a language in a structured way, step by step. So I think the likes of phonics. Before that, the last experiment was very much just put things in front of the child and allow them to learn and understand the words, or what they often call the whole word approach. So unlike phonics, where you try to break a word down into its separate sounds, like education, said very badly, to break a word down, teachers in this whole words was, hey, well, just look at this headline and work it out. Basically, I'm being quite facetious, but very, very simple. So they've moved towards something much more structured. And I just want to stress that it's in the English language. So what was happening is a book, and this is for very young children. They said, look, unfortunately, in this case, the book's got a couple too many Māori words, in this case, karakia and kai, and you'll see on the next one, they're talking about the wharenui, so that's inside the marae, the koro, so like the older man, and of course the hongi, where we know you press noses together. So, as I say, they've decided this book will not be used, the reason being there's too many Māori words in it. And actually, I have to say I'm sort of genuinely torn, because at one level in New Zealand, Māori is one of our languages. Learning words like karakia, for example, or wharenui, you eventually need to know those in New Zealand. But on the other side of the equation, this is English. We're trying to teach children to learn the English language. We're not trying to teach them, in this case, Māori, Latin, French. We're trying to teach them English. And so I suppose where I landed on this, and people might have a different perspective on it, and that's fine, is the first priority is to allow the child to learn the primary language that they're learning, in this case, English. If they were learning Māori at a kura kaupapa, I would not expect a Māori text to be peppered with English words. I think that would just be very confusing to the child. And I say that as someone who's actually, excuse me, who's actually learned Māori and English, and actually a number of other languages. But I learnt Māori at university, and obviously I learnt English through school. And it just strikes me, firstly, the hyperbole of these people screaming it's an act of racism. I'm afraid inserting, in this case, Māori language into everything doesn't actually make a lot of sense, and certainly doesn't make a lot of sense when you're trying to educate a child in the English language. As they get older, I think then once you've got a command of English in the same way that for those that are kura kaupapa would have a better command of Māori, then you can start, if you will, peppering in different words. So I just thought, again, a huge beat up in many ways, and a whole lot of yelling and screaming. As I say, Didi's saying under the Treaty of Waitangi to learn and teach Maori. Well, look, this is more of a political point. I don't actually see that obligation myself in the treaty at all. As most of you will know, if you actually pick up the Treaty of Waitangi, it's probably got as many words as that children's book. Obviously, though, the government at the moment is continuing to say that that's a paramount consideration. And even if it was, if we have to follow the law, my personal view is that we separate out. You're better off, particularly as a young person, and I'm talking kids at primary, teach them English. It's the lingua franca of the world. It's our primary language here. Teach them Māori as well, but personally, don't try and blend both of them, particularly when you're trying to teach the child the very basics. As I say, it makes no sense to me of how one is meant to teach someone English while speaking in another language, and just confusing confusing things. And I suppose the final point is, of course, if you don't live in New Zealand, this page, amongst others, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I think that's something we've got to figure out in New Zealand as well, because one of my, I don't know, is it a fear or small concerns is we're developing a pidgin English in this country, which the rest of the world doesn't understand. And it's only a small concern, but as I've travelled, particularly in my political life, with usually colleagues from the Labour Party or Greens who were very keen to speak in foreign engagements in Māori, which at one level was quite lovely and nice, but you could also see that no one in the room has any idea what's been said and doesn't need to know. And therefore they actually don't understand what you're saying. So anyway, probably belaboured that a little bit too much, but I think that the key point, well, 2 points is one, if you're going to be teaching young children English, use English. If you're going to teach them Māori, use Māori. Don't confuse the child because of your cultural agendas. The second, of course, is the usual go-to attack of the progressives, of the activists. As I say, it's to yell, it's to scream. It's not particularly a rational response, is it? It's just screaming, in this case, racism, which means basically people like myself switch off because I think the activists have no idea what they're talking about. Peter was saying that he's homeschooling his, 7-year-old in Spanish and Cantonese. Look, personally, I'm a great fan of learning a second language. I think it does amazing things for one's brain development. And we never could quite get it across the line when in Parliament. But I would love to have seen, in effect, a mandated second language, but I don't care what it is. So learning Māori, Cantonese, Spanish, Latin, Attic Greek, it doesn't really matter. English is the primary language, because it just is. Also, as I keep saying, it's the language of the world. Rabbit Hole for it says, I make sense. I surprise even myself. Harrison saying, why can't we teach them both English and Maori? There's no reason we can't. As I say, granted I did it as an adult, but I've learnt Māori and I've learnt English, and I think that's great. It's when you try to blend them or replace one with the other, I think we run into problems. So teaching both is good, but I think the key point, Harrison, is when we're teaching really young children to insert words from another language, just creates a lot of confusion. Yes, I'm just looking at all the. Oh, we've got lots of. Yeah, we've got lots of. Yeah, Dean has pointed out. Of course, we've got three languages, official languages in New Zealand. Personally, I think sign language gets actually a very bad rap. It's an official language, but actually is not well supported at all, which I think is unfortunate. Anyway, I prattle on far too long on that. Hey, just a cup. Actually, DD summed it up actually on another element. This was the third. It has become highly politicised and a cudgel. Now, it's often used to silence people as well, particularly, and I think I might have talked about it before, when pronunciation becomes the cudgel. It's often a tactic to unsteady you, to say, oh, you didn't quite pronounce that word correctly, your intonation is wrong. It's trying to put you in your place, trying to quieten you. As my suggestion to people is just push on through. You always try, and look, I've learnt multiple languages. And look, I probably pronounce them all wrong and badly, but you always just keep pushing through, because the primary issue for language is communication. Political activists, those who want to indoctrinate, seem to have forgotten that. The point of language is to enable us to communicate. And so you can think about people whose second, third or fourth language is English, and it's really bad to us, or to our ear. But actually, as long as you can understand them, the language is being achieved. We're turning it into, certainly here into New Zealand, into a weapon now. And again, you see it around a lot of pronunciation issues, that it really is just to silence people, which is unfortunate. Yeah. And Andromeda, I'm sorry, very small font. Andromeda, Tangipa says, I sign, which is, I think, marvellous. I did a little bit of sign language years ago with my grandfather, but that has certainly gone by the wayside. Hey, I know there's a lot of chat about Gaza and so forth. Look, New Zealand's dancing on the head of a pin here. So yesterday, the Prime Minister and Winston Peters announced that we will consider, as a New Zealand country, recognising a State of Palestine at the September UN meeting. Completely the wrong decision, I have to say. It's getting the horse before the cart. I've said before, there's always a possibility of a state of Palestine. But now is completely the wrong time. It's a reward for terrorists and criminal cartels, because that is who runs Gaza and the likes of the West Bank. So I thought naivety was being showed by our political leaders as they talked their big talk that there's no place for Hamas, as if Hamas, that death cult, really gives a tinker's cuss what the likes of Chris Luxon or Anthony Albanese thinks. An Israeli army hasn't yet pushed them out of Gaza, but somehow our politicians think that they'll just walk away. And then they talk about the Palestinian Authority there in the West Bank. Granted, not running the terrorist activities like Hamas, but they are a criminal cartel and completely corrupt. And somehow Western leaders like Luxon and Mark Carney in Canada and Albanese in Australia, they all think it's a great idea to give these terrorists and crooks a state of their own. They also show their gross ignorance of how state creation occurs, because you need a capital city and you need clear boundaries. And neither the Palestinian Authority or Hamas recognise even the existence of Israel. So it's hard to know how they're going to agree boundaries. And as I say, really just seems a reward for terrorism. But the worst of it all to me is that, and Marco Rubio summed it up well, and I'm sorry I don't have... No, Peter's asked a question, does Hamas run the West Bank? No, I said Hamas runs Gaza. The Palestinian Authority and the Fatah tribal faction runs West Bank. They used to look after both, or run both, again as a criminal cartel. But Hamas killed them all. Charming people. Lost my train of thought. Apologies. Oh, yeah. Hamas, of course, at the very moment that France and then the UK, like Luxon here and Albanese saying we'll recognise a state, have walked away from the negotiations. So actually all that these Western leaders have done, very sadly, is put back the cause of peace. And so I'm not just disappointed, I'm quite angry at these virtue signalling activities by the likes of Luxon and Albanese and others, and to the degree that actually Winston's pulling back from his strong support of Israel. The way to peace is to put pressure on Hamas, not rewarding them with a state. And as I say, pressure was being put on Hamas. Arab nations were saying to Hamas, it's time to finish, time to go, we'll put you into exile. And as I say, if you've been following the news, the UK, France, Australia, and even hints like New Zealand saying, oh, actually, give us a month and we might give you a state. We might recognise you as a state, has just emboldened Hamas. So absolute idiots. And I just thought I'd put this up. Actually, I know Iona, she's the High Commissioner, so she's the United Kingdom's High Commissioner here in New Zealand, wrote in the Herald saying that we need to recognise the State of Palestine. It's a rescue plan. No, it's not. It is sorry, I should rephrase it. Yes, it is a rescue plan for Islamic terrorists and criminal gangs. It's not going to rescue the people of Gaza. It's not going to help the people of the West Bank. It's just complete naive thinking. And yep, you might go, well, what do I know compared to all these guys? It could be a fair point. But as I say, you don't recognise criminal gangs and terrorist outfits and give them a state. Look at how the West has intervened in a number of places around the world and stuffed it up. Or going into the likes of Afghanistan and Iraq more recently, both to which I've been, and thinking they will just come around to Western liberal democracy. No, they won't. And so if Iona and others, Iona's the author of this, if they think that this state of Palestine, this fictitious state of Palestine, is going to somehow turn into a wonderful liberal functioning democracy, that they're beyond dreaming. It will turn into the continued tribal fighting that already exists there. As I say, I keep coming back to it. The likes of the Palestinian Authority are a criminal cartel. Where do you think all the aid money goes? It's to the leadership, not down to the people. It's just mind-boggling. But yeah, that's my view and opinion. So look, a reminder, of course, we will be chatting politics Thursday night. You remember that with Bob and I. The Forum on the Family, obviously I run the ad at the start of every show, but we're only, 2 weeks away. Just over 2 weeks away now. It's a huge lineup. There's still a few seats left. I really encourage you to come along. It will be brilliant. The latest podcast is out. That's with Stephen Moe. We're talking about how we serve into the charity sector. I mean, that's fantastic. We're continuing our Substacks. I haven't written one since last week. That was me talking again on the Middle East. Bob here talking about how the radical left are trying to destroy marriage and family. None of that's a real surprise to you guys. Of course, we've always got our watch, read and listen. There's no paywalls here at Family First. All and everyone can access our stuff, so you can watch these shows live. You can go back and see them. Other shows, the podcast, you can read. You can even hear things on Spotify. It is pretty amazing. And of course, you don't have to listen to me every morning. You have the wonderful Bob McCoskrie along. So he's back on deck tomorrow morning. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you to this amazing and beautiful day. I've got to go and, get on to a few other things. But lovely to have you all join me this morning. I look forward to seeing you again on Thursday morning.